So, hi, Paul.
Hiya, Pete.
I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name is Pete Gordon. I'm a Senior Improvement Manager for the Emergency Care Improvement Support Team. And today we've got Paul Devlin, who's an Improvement Manager with the same team and an ambulance lead as well. And he's going to talk about something called a great place to work. So over to you, Paul.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for the opportunity, Pete. So we're going to share with you today the concept of why we would want to create a really positive and supportive environment for our teams to flourish. And we'll look at the real connection between how people feel about being at work and the quality of care they're actually giving. It's absolutely critical link. So thank you for taking the time to look into this with us. So just by way of context, we can think of this in a couple of ways, really, Pete. Some people are stuck in jobs that they absolutely hate. They're working for people that don't value them. And they could be pretty much too frightened to leave for a number of circumstances. But our question is this: how likely are they to provide excellent care or service? Equally, you might have some people at the opposite end of the spectrum whereby they absolutely love coming to work. They really love the people they're working with and they feel really valued to do what they do. So again, the question applies: how likely are they to provide excellent care or service? So our point is, surely then, if we know that there's a really strong link between positivity and happiness at work and the quality of care our patients and service users receive, why don't we then focus a lot more on creating a really, really positive environment? We've got to remember, actually, that there's a lot of evidence out there saying that how we behave towards each other is the single greatest factor of how we compete as teams, how competent we are as teams. And we do have this kind of concept of a bullying culture within something as large as the NHS. That's not a surprise. What is a surprise is 1 in 4 people experience that. So that's clearly the end of the scale that we really, really want to kind of move well away from. So we do want to value everybody at work. We are stuck with the people we're working with, and that's fine. Everybody does bring value, but we've got to be really careful now about mood hoovers and toxic people. So these are the people, you know the kind, Pete. You'll see their name flash up on your mobile phone and you'll think, oh my goodness, here we go again. Or you'll be in a meeting and they'll walk in, your head drops and you just lose the will. They suck the living life force out of you. What I'd love to see basically, and a bit of a really little silly point to make really, but we're really robust as an NHS around infection prevention and control. Well, we've got to be really careful about mood hoovers and toxic people because they are spreading infection across people in a really negative way. They're making people feel really, really, really bad. And the concept needs to be that we need to make sure these people either improve how they are and become less of a mood hoover or less of a toxic person, or we put them in a role whereby they can't negatively impact on hundreds of thousands of people, depending on what kind of role they have. And the key thing for us here, Pete, is leaders should be leaders by virtue of the fact they can create a great place to work, because the rest will follow if they can do that. Okay, so why would we be wanting to look at this really? We've spoken a little about the connection to healthcare, but pulling on some of the really brilliant research by Simon Sinek, looking at why anybody does anything as the first place, and then how and what it is we're trying to do. So if we apply that model to NHS Great Place to Work, well, the why for us looking to do this is that we truly believe that every patient and service user deserves a quality of care that we want for ourselves and a family. Now, some people might roll their eyes and think that's idealistic, but the reality of it is, if God forbid, if we have to call on NHS services, it's the only quality of care we would want. And therefore, it's absolutely right that every patient and service user deserves that same level of quality as we want for ourselves and our family. So how might we want to get to that point? Well, we need to create a really positive and supportive environment where people can absolutely perform at their best. And why wouldn't we want to do that? How would we do that? So that's creating the environment. Great place to work is the what really. It's what would we use to create a really positive and supportive environment. And great place to work as a tool is incredibly simple, but it's incredibly powerful as well, as we'll see in a second. So if somebody said to me, and I did have a great question pitched to me last week, by a member of our NHS England people team, Eve Russell, and bless her, she said, what would you think it'd feel like? What should it feel like to work in the NHS family? And I said, I can sum it up, Eve, with one photograph. And I showed her this photograph.
Great photo.
And it's my all-time favourite photo. And if you look at these people here, Pete, every single one of them is actually defying gravity. They're off the ground. And particularly this one guy here, virtually centre of the screen there with his mouth wide open, he's just an amazing character. So my question really is, God forbid we needed to be treated by an emergency ambulance crew. How would you feel about one of these guys coming out and looking after yourself or your family? I know personally for me, I think we'd end up with a really good quality of service because of the culture they're working in. And then my little strap line on this slide here, Pete, is I love what I do and I do what I love brilliantly thanks to our great place to work. So I think that one slide alone really sums up what I'm trying to achieve with NHS Great Place to Work. So let's just talk for a moment. We've mentioned mood hoovers, but on the other end of the scale, Pete, we've got happiness heroes and top 2%ers. So happiness heroes are basically people that you instantly put a smile on the face of. They walk in the room, you just smile. They call you, you smile. You know the kind of people, Pete, you know, you're one of these characters yourself all day long. So happiness heroes, people who really do make people feel happy at work. Now, don't get us wrong here, people are still dealing with tricky, really challenging and tough issues on a daily basis. But the happiness heroes and top 2%ers have a lot more resolve about themselves. They're coming at those issues with a lot more rigour, and they've got a knack about looking at more creative, alternative solutions to get them out of problems. So these aren't people that go around all day bouncing around like Tigger with a head in the clouds. They are frontline and centre, dealing with all the issues everybody else is. It's because they've chosen to be positive and be those top 2% of the community that by default are more positive than negative. They can deal with the setbacks and turmoils that the rest of us have in a far better way. So my view is, just as with the toxic people, we need to minimise the contact with other people because we don't want negatively infecting people. With happiness heroes and top 2%ers, Pete, the concept here is let's go and hunt them out. And let's go and hunt them out and let's get them into positions where they can positively infect as many people as possible. And let's get more people like that ambulance slide where they're jumping and they're just saying, you know what, we can really make this work and we love what we do. So my happiness hero here is a young lady called Nikki Pointer. At Nikki Ann 30 on Twitter. She's a ward manager on Ward 33 at Maidstone, Tunbridge Wells, an emergency obs and gynae ward. But interestingly, whilst Nikki's an absolute ninja at her ward manager job, she's actually a community leader. And her team have just won the Queen's Award for Voluntary Services. And Pete, you'll get this as all day long, as I know that a lot of our guys do. I think for me, one of the tests of a leader is their ability to lead people in a voluntary scenario. Because if you're working in the voluntary sector, you don't have to follow anything. You don't have to follow anyone. It's really up to you. Now, for people to be able to go into the voluntary sector and to achieve national excellence, I think by creating great places to work and really creating positive environments for people to help communities is amazing. So for me, Nikki is a great case example whereby you can be great at work and that's fantastic, but equally using your awesomeness in the community to be able to kind of take a group of volunteers and make them exceptional, I think for me is a brilliant example of happiness hero and top 2%. Okay, so just a little bit of the science here, but I'm not going to dwell on it. There's cold, hard benefits for creating an environment where our teams can be happy at work. Basically, they're taking 1/10 of the short-term sickness time that their less happy colleagues are taking. They're twice as productive, twice as resilient, twice as likely to be promoted, stay twice as long as their organisation, and are six times more and energized and engaged in their mission. So, I mean, again, our point here is, why wouldn't we want any of those benefits? And that's all coming out of some of the research around Google Perfect Team. And there's a reference here at the bottom that looked at hundreds of thousands of people and their happiness at work, and what happiness at work meant in terms of impact on the organisation as well as the individuals. So there's some really, really good benefits there in terms of why we'd want to pursue happiness at work. A great place to work, it's a continuous improvement tool. It is designed for rapid improvements in terms of workplace culture and positive environments. It is designed to remove the constraints that prevent our teams from performing at their best. This is not the NHS staff survey. This is something very rapid. Go away and do it tomorrow morning or this afternoon, and then the very next day you're out doing tests of change to resolve the things that people say are causing them most constraints, distress. In the event that we want to minimise the amount of staff surveys out and about, well, there's no need to duplicate, because we've used Great Place to Work questions in the National Staff Survey and also in local trust pulse surveys as well, or temperature check surveys. So we can weave them into anything else that the HROD teams have got running at the time. With Great Place to Work, however, though, Pete, we do want very, very high response rates. As a minimum, it needs to be 90%. And the reason for that is because we want the wow factor. There might be some really good things that come out, and there'll be some really tricky things that come out. But if virtually all of your staff are saying the same things, we know we're on the right track. So, and that's particularly helpful in terms of a catalyst for change. So we're looking at 90 to 100%. Our latest trust to join us, George Eliot Hospital in Nuneaton, their emergency departments achieved 100% response rate. So we're just helping them to go through the analysis of that now. So basically, this is the analysis. It's only ever one slide of A4. This is an example. So we want to plot how many people said what score they would rate. There is no guidance around how to score things other than saying 1 is awful and 10 is awesome. We ask them to say what's the most pressing thing on their mind. It doesn't need to be work related about how they do their job. It could be anything. So we have one chart to show the distribution of the scores. We calculate the average Great Place to Work score, and we have another chart to say what are the top things that we need to resolve to make it a 10. And then, no surprise, we go to work on the things that most people say, causing them an issue, using the model for improvement, so we know that any change is having an improved impact or not. So really, I believe once we get to that point, we know who said what and what are the key things to make it a 10. We want people to have a little think about positive deviance, which you're clearly an incredible ninja and scientific resource on there, Pete. So thank you personally for all your support on positive deviance. However, with Great Place to Work, it's kind of mandatory for the improvement process, on the basis that if what people were doing before was going to create the environment we're after, it would have done it by now. So we do want people to kind of have a think about the concept of positive deviance. We're not encouraging people to run off and break rules or do anything that's going to compromise them or anything that's too tricky, but just to think differently, still use the resources that you've got around you, but just think and act differently than you've done before. And sometimes some people might say, well, I'm not too sure if that's right for us, or if we shouldn't, you know, hold on, or we shouldn't run to a committee or whatever. Well, Great Place to Work is literally get out there and start making the changes really quickly as soon as these surveys are in. So we've got a little visual there as well for our model for improvement. We do some training on that as well as part of our facilitated offer for teams that want to have a go at this. And a little phrase that I've just kind of pinched from somewhere and tweaked it a bit in terms, and consider becoming the type of person that no matter where you are, you always add value to the lives of those around you. And I think a great place to work person, top 2% happiness hero, is a person that continually adds value to people's lives. Great place to work is a simple little tool. It's fantastic to use, and by creating a really positive environment, we can start to provide the kinds of service consistently that we want for ourselves and our family. Pete, that's all there is. Thank you.
Brilliant. That was great, Paul. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah. So it seems really simple to do. So can people just get on and do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to make the slides and hopefully this little video available so people can start having a look at the concept. And then I actually coach people through the process. For the first time they're using it, I'll guide them through the process and help them pull out the themes and present the information, and then just coach them through a little bit of an improvement cycle for the first one or two things. And then they've got it. It's as simple as that.
Okay, so that sounds great. I love, obviously, I love the power of positive deviance. And I think I saw this quote from Helen Bevan on a slide when she was presenting, which is, you can break the rules as long as you don't break the law. So, which has always been a sort of mantra of, I think, yours and mine, Paul. Okay, so just before we finish off, Paul, how can people contact you? So what's your handle on Twitter?
Great, good point. So I'm at Devlin, that's Devlin PJ, Papa Juliet, at Devlin PJ, and also paul.devlin@nhs.net.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Paul. That was great.
Brilliant. Thank you, Pete.